So it seems that the British public are generally a bit more right-wing than the Americans, at least when it comes to things like immigration. On social issues, actually, the American conservatives, with their deeply Christian background, have the edge on us. But I find this really, really interesting. Less than half the public believe that diversity is a strength. After decades of propaganda, and after this just being the one line that comes from the establishment all the time, diversity is our strength, diversity is our strength. They haven't even persuaded half of people in this country that that's true, because the evidence of our own eyes would suggest the opposite. Anyway, the National Centre for Social Research found 49% of the British public feels that diversity strengthens society, compared to 64% of Americans. People in the UK are also more likely to have tougher attitudes on immigration, and the findings show that the common narrative about Britain being more socially liberal than America does not ring true across all issues. They also found that reform voters, as in the right-wing voter bloc, was more right-wing. They think that immigrants living in their country without permission should not be allowed to stay, more than supporters of Trump in the US, whereas 70 to 79% to reform voters. Researchers said they wanted to understand how this difference came about. Their survey found that 42% of people in the UK think that there should be legal efforts to deport immigrants living here without permission, compared with just a third in the US. So, again, the British public just far more possessive of their own country. And when it came to how open their country is to people around the world, 63% of the US felt this was an essential thing to their national identity, but only 49% of people in the UK were like-minded. And so the research director says, the idea that Britain is more socially liberal than America doesn't hold up across all issues. While the UK is clearly more liberal on questions to do with family, sexuality and religion, attitudes towards immigration and diversity show the opposite pattern. People in the UK are less likely to see those than those in the US see diversity as a strength, or to think that openness to people from other countries is essential to who we are as a nation. Our findings suggest that polarisation in the two countries looks very different. In the UK, the sharpest divides are around immigration and national identity. In the US, they're around social issues and the role of government. These differences will shape political debate on both sides in the years to come. So this is interesting, because what I would suggest that it reveals to us is not only that the propaganda has not been terribly effective. If only 49% of people, so 51% of people, don't assent to the proposition that diversity is our strength. That's interesting, especially as the more diverse we get, the weaker we seem to be getting. But there's also the nature of Britain compared to the nature of the United States. So the United States is a giant continent that is, I mean, literally it's a continent. So there's plenty of space. There's lots of variation between the states as well. You can find all sorts of ways of life in America. Britain's a lot smaller, much smaller. It's the size of a state. And although it's got a very high population for a state. And the people here have been here a lot longer, and we feel a lot more tied to the place. And so there's, like I said, a deeper sense of possessiveness and exclusivity that comes with this. People in Britain are less likely to just move around the country as well, whereas in America, people move all the time. And this, I think, is what explains it. In Britain, we feel that we are the owners of something that the Americans don't have. And so for us, immigration is way more of an issue. Even though on many things like abortion and all that sort of same-sex marriage, we're way more liberal because we don't have the kind of overarching Christian morality. We're much more, honestly, just liberal when it comes to these sort of things. And as long as the people aren't causing trouble, then we don't really seem to have a problem with it. We haven't got any sort of divine authority that's telling us what these things are. But we do when it comes to the nature of our country and the identity of the people in the country. Americans have got a very incorporative identity. You can come over, you can be American, and I've seen it. Just Americans will just be like, oh yeah, they're as American as us. And it's like, okay, but these people are not Americans. Where in Britain, this is a much more strongly felt belief. And I do think it comes to the difference between sort of the sort of familial society to the social contract society. America, of course, being the example of a social contract society. Britain being a deeply settled and tribal society. And I think that we've got a much more non-rational view of our own country than the Americans, I think. And I think that's what we're seeing in these surveys. But like I said, I do find it interesting that 49% of the British public didn't buy the propaganda. 50%, 51% didn't buy the propaganda. And then you've got this one as well. So another survey has found that, in fact, British voters are more anti-immigrant than Trump supporters. And this is, like I said, a strange thing. There we go. So in this survey, they found that the question, we risk losing our national identity if we are too open to people from all over the world. 65% of Trump supporters said that. Only 65% of Trump supporters said that. Whereas 81% of British right-wingers said that. So, again, this is a much more, frankly, it's tribal identity that we have. And in America, it is bad for society if white people decline as a share of the population. 43% of Trump supporters said that's the case, which is interesting. Whereas 70% of British right-wingers are like, I don't want to be a minority in my own homeland. Because, again, we have this sense of possessiveness. The Americans don't seem to feel over their own country because it's just so much bigger, I think. I genuinely think it's because of the scale of America that means that these things feel different. And probably the age, too. And the way that they came by it. I'm uncomfortable with people speaking a foreign language in public places. Only 47% of Trump supporters said that. I can't stand the amount of Spanish that's in America. I think it's indignant that the Anglo-Americans should have to worry about learning Spanish. That's totally alien to the English experience, because our experience dealing with Spanish speakers is crushing them in war, or liberating them from people who have crushed them in war. 66% of Brits on the right said the same thing, and I imagine that's generally probably quite a high percentage. That's probably reflective of the public more generally. And only 19% of American Republicans said society is being weakened by being made up of many different races, ethnicities, and religions, whereas 52% of people on the British right said that. And the thing is, I don't think diversity has been much of a strength in Britain. I actually think that we can see that the diversity has caused a few problems in the last week or so, and it's possibly something that is actually not terribly to our benefit. Anyway, this has been a fairly long-running thing. After Brexit, attitudes in Britain, quote-unquote, softened towards immigration. But it's not that people, I think, changed their mind on immigration. I think that what they thought is that immigration is a settled issue now. We're no longer in the EU, therefore we don't have to worry about taking loads of migrants. Therefore, immigration should go down. Now, you can see by the knives in our backs that the Boris wave happened in spite of that, because Boris was like, I want the Financial Times to like me. I'm going to just open the borders and have ridiculous levels of immigration into this country. And this is only 2 years into the Boris wave, whereas, as you can see, about half of people were like, I just want it reduced by either a lot or a little. Only 22% said remain the same, and only 14% were like, we should increase it. It's mad. I mean, even if you're an immigrant in this country, why would you want it increased? And on the whole, 30% have said it's neither good nor bad, but then 33% say it's been bad or very bad. And then you've got about the same on the other side, split in thirds, who think it's been positive. So interesting that we've still got a lot of work to do on the British right. But honestly, the way things are going at the moment, can't help but feel that the course of events is going to change people's opinion. Remember, this is from 2 years ago. I haven't seen this survey from more recently. But I can't imagine people are more in favour of immigration, man. I can't imagine it. And the thing is as well, you've got to remember that people have no idea how immigration in this country works, right? When asked, they genuinely think that there are about 70,000, I don't know if they say in this survey, but they genuinely think about 70,000 is the net immigration into this country, which if it was, you wouldn't notice. But no, it's not 70,000. It's 700 plus thousand. And as you can see, they think that, to the best of your knowledge, which type of immigration accounts for the largest number of people coming to the UK each year, a quarter of people think it's refugees on a small boats, which it's not. That's like 5% or something. That's an insanely tiny amount compared to the millions we let in legally. It's mostly, well, I guess we call them economic migrants, people coming here to work and their families. That's about a third and a third. And the students are a fairly large percentage as well. So it's just mad how the British public do not understand how immigration into Britain is. They don't understand the scale of it. They don't understand how it's happening. And yet there are foreigners everywhere. And they're like, yeah, you know, I think I've had enough of this. I think this is an attack on our identity. And I think we're going to lose our country. And I think it's a problem if we become a minority in our own country. So it's interesting how, despite being completely misinformed, the evidence of their own eyes, looking around and going, right, okay, this isn't what I want, actually, is what's informing the Brits. And the Americans, honestly, have a kind of ideology that I think kind of blinds them to the concerns here. I do think it is the kind of liberal ideology of America that means that, for example, you know, they don't mind if the white Americans become a minority in America. It's like more than half of Trump supporters just don't see that as a problem at all, which is interesting. But anyway, so Britain generally more right-wing on immigration, which I thought was an interesting thing.